This is chapter 2, verse 219, and its English translation is, they ask you about intoxicants and games of chance. Say, in both of them is a great sin and some advantage for men, and their sin is greater than their advantage. And they ask you as to what they should spend. Say what you can spare. Thus does Allah make clear to you the messages that you may ponder. This is chapter 5, verses 90 to 91. O you who believe, intoxicants and games of chance and sacrificing to stones set up and dividing by arrows are only an uncleanness, the devil's work. So shun it that you may succeed. The devil desires only to create enmity and hatred among you by means of intoxicants and games of chance, and to keep you back from the remembrance of Allah and from prayer. Will you then keep back? These verses came to mind when I saw an item on the news this morning, and that is that Weatherspoons, which is a company that owns many public houses. For those who listen to this khutbah, outside the UK, a public house is a drinking establishment known as a pub in the United Kingdom. The news item said that their profits have increased by 37%. 37%. This is against a background, and Weatherspoons commented on this. They said our profits would have been even higher if cheap booze hadn't been available in ordinary supermarkets. So that 37% is not the end of the story. All of you walk down any supermarket, whether it's Tesco's or Asda or Morrison's or whatever it is, you will see at least 2 shelves of all kinds of intoxicants, whatever they are, different types and kinds that are being sold here. They're sold there. And although in theory people are supposed to ask for ID to see that people buying these things are over 16 or 18 or whatever, in many cases this doesn't happen. You see, the Holy Quran is a very reasonable book. You didn't hear it say, ban intoxicants, ban games of chance, because they're all bad. It said, there is some benefit in these things. But the difficulty is that the damage that they do is outweighed by any benefit that you might get from it. We know, for example, that intoxicants are used in medication. You're put to sleep before an operation so that you don't feel the pain. So you're given an intoxicant and then you recover. And then to help your recovery for a few days or a week or 2, you might be given something. That is the benefit of it. For many centuries, alcohol was not only directly used as an intoxicant, it was also used to disinfect things. It kills germs. So if you wanted to disinfect your surgical equipment, etc., you used alcohol. You find it in gripe water. So if your baby is in pain and has a lot of wind and so on, and you give it gripe water, it sleeps through the night and it wakes up with a smile on its face. Not because it's feeling any better probably, but because it's got a hangover, I should think, depending on how much gripe water you've given it. So the Quran recognizes that. So it doesn't sort of reject things out of hand. It says, I can see some benefit in it. And if you're going to use an intoxicant, to avail yourself of that benefit, disinfect something, etc. Give your baby gripe water, whatever, then that is allowed. But generally, for socializing and for entertainment, intoxicants are banned. And then apart from giving a general reason why intoxicants are banned, it also gives a specific reason. It says, devil wants to create enmity and hatred between you by means of these intoxicants and these games of chance. If we talk to people, if we work in an environment where there are lots of non-Muslims, or even watch television, or read stories. If you look at British history, there are instances where a man would be gambling, he would run out of money, and he would feel that he has a winning hand. So what would he say? Use his wife. Put his wife in to carry on gambling. Then many men lost, and the wife then had to leave her husband and go with the man who won her, just like an animal, just like a chattel. It would be like saying, I've got a pet dog, and I put that into the pot to carry on gambling. It was literally as if his wife was his possession in the same way as anything else, his shoes or his clothes or whatever that he owned. But this is not just a historic phenomenon. This is a recent one as well. Gambling used to be severely restricted in the United Kingdom. Now it has been made very easy. Where do you find most gambling shops opening? Are they in Cliveden? Are they in Windsor? Are they in Ascot? No. They're in Slough. Not only are they in Slough, but they are in poor areas of Slough. You're teaching human beings that if you have difficulty to get out of that, the path is not to try and find work and work hard to get out of financial difficulty, but to go down to the bookies and take a punt on whatever it might be, a dog or a horse. People bet on all kinds of things now. Princess, I forget her name now, 2 days ago it was announced that she was pregnant, and people are going to bet on what the baby's weight is going to be, what the color of his eyes is going to be, what the color of his hair is going to be. Anything you mention, they'll bet on that. And the same thing happens with alcohol. Today, we get the news that one of the largest companies selling alcohol in this country, its profits have gone up 37%. And what did we have yesterday? There's a free newspaper distributed in London. And on the way back from court, I had nothing to do but sleep. or read that paper. So I read that paper on the underground. What did that say? That said, if a pregnant woman takes a drink, a few drinks, one day, not throughout her pregnancy, one day during her pregnancy, that damages the fetus's brain. They tested 11-year-olds. There was one group where mothers didn't drink, and there was another group where the mothers took an occasional drink. And the kids whose mothers drank occasionally on their SATs, they were all 1 point below those whose mothers didn't drink during pregnancy. This is just one drink or two during pregnancy. So can you imagine the impact upon the babies of mothers who drank and smoked throughout their pregnancies? You see, there are some very strange objections that people in this country raise. They say things like, well, not every woman is going to do that. Not everyone is going to do that. So why should alcohol be banned for everyone? Well, I mean, I ask you, not everyone is going out to shoplift. Not everyone is going to run a red traffic light. Not everyone is going to go out and rob a bank. So why is there a law made for everyone that you mustn't run a red traffic light, you mustn't rob a bank, and you mustn't do shoplifting? These laws are made against the few who will do it to protect the majority who won't do it. That's the whole point of the law. I mean, in this country, we have a strange situation. First, we allow something, or the government allows something. Well, we know why they allow it because they get a huge amount of tax and VAT from these companies, from the sale of alcohol and gambling houses as well. And but what they are so short-sighted and don't realize is that although you get money in, you have to spend a greater amount on providing these people with facilities as far as National Health Service and pension and other things go. So what's the point of getting money in when you got to spend even more of that? But anyway, what I was saying to you was this, that these laws are made against those few who are going to break them to protect the majority who won't. The same applies to running a red traffic light, or robbing a bank, or doing shoplifting, or mention anything. Do you think every parent is going to abuse their children? Beat them? Not feed them? So why have you got a law against abusing children? Why do you get social services and police involved where you suspect something like this is going to happen? You have laws because there are a few people who are going to do it, and you want to protect the others who might be impacted. And gambling and drinking, that doesn't just impact one person. It impacts a whole family. I volunteer at the Citizens Advice Bureau, and every day people come in with gambling problems. There was a man, he was a Muslim, he refused to speak to me because he was so embarrassed. He had a gambling problem. His friend had this surefire system which couldn't fail. And he said, but my friend didn't have the money. So he asked me, And what did that surefire system lead to? More debt, more credit cards, more overdraft. It is very simple. It's very simple. Why do people open casinos? Just ask yourself that question. Is it to make a profit? Or is it to make you and me a profit? Have you ever heard of a casino going bankrupt? Have you ever heard of a casino making a loss? Yes, one person in 10 million may have a big win. But that money is not coming from the casino, it's coming from me and you and you and you and you and you and you. And all of us who are sitting here who go to that casino and put money in slot machines and whatever else it is that we do. Those casinos are there for their benefit, not your benefit. And it's the same with these pubs and bars and so on. There are very few places that sell alcohol that ever make a loss. Why? It's for exactly the same reason. And the impact that has on these people's families. They would rather their children went hungry, but they want to place the next bet. They would rather their wives went hungry rather than miss out on taking a drink. See, some people say to me, well, there isn't 100% evidence that it's going to happen to everyone. But we don't look for 100% evidence. We look to try and see what the balance of probabilities is. I'll give you an example. Yesterday I was in court and we were going through these bank statements which had some large deposits which needed to be explained. So I said to the judge, well, here is evidence where money for one came. Here is an evidence where money for another deposit came. Here is an evidence where money for another deposit came. I went like this. And then I said, well, there's 3 large deposits for which I don't have evidence. Now let's look at the balance of probability. If you have 15 large deposits, and I can explain 11 of them, and I can't explain 3 or 4, I would ask you to draw the conclusion that those 3 or 4 were probably also legal and lawful things. Because I've proven that 11 were. And that's what you do in science. You don't go around. Look, when you do drug testing, do you go around to every single person who takes that drug and says, well, I hope you feel better by taking this drug. I hope you don't have any side effect. Then you go to that one, then you go to that one, then you go to that one, and you go around the whole world. That way, no medicine, no drug will ever find its way on the market. You take a sample, and you look at that sample, and you have a control group, and you give that sample this drug. And then you see how that sample is affected. It's very strange. When it comes to God or religion, particularly Islam and the Holy Quran, we forget everything that happens in science, that happens in medicine, that happens in law, in other fields. And we want certainty and perfection and 100% and etc. You will never get that. You will never get 100% evidence to satisfy everyone. And that's the crucial thing. Even if you got 100% evidence, everyone will still not be satisfied. So you say, okay, let me look at this. I've got 60%, 70% evidence which supports this, so I will do that. And down the centuries, we have evidence how intoxicants, and I include smoking in that, not just wine and alcohol and so on, and other things, and how gambling have been detrimental overall to the people and how much damage they do to societies. If you want more evidence, read the history of Victorian times. If you want more evidence, go and do a tour of citizens' advice bureaus. And then you will find evidence and see why the Holy Quran, despite saying that there are advantages to these things, said it's preferable to actually ban them.